Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Disc Golf Guys live podcast right here for the 2016 top 5 memories that I experienced over this phenomenal disc golf season. Doing a first ever podcast. Back in May, I worked a little bit on doing a Google Hangout, and that seemed to work out really well. It was shortly after the Kansas City Wide Open took place. A lot of people came on board, wanted to talk and interact and go over what happened in the Kansas City event. Haven't done one since. Of course, on Tuesday nights with Johnny V, I'm always stepped inside the Smash Box that we're doing over at Johnny V's house. But tonight, wanted to try something a little bit different, and I wanted to give you also my top 5 memories that we found here in 2016. Pretty tall task to think about trying to get down just to 5 memories. Of course, there were dozens that came about. I wanted to think about all the different people and the places that I've been, and then from there, what it did is also gave me an idea to break out from there and maybe do a few other things, such as top 5 venues that I was at this year. I was at a lot of really cool, a lot of amazing places, and that might be a separate video depending on how things go tonight. So thanks to Johnny V getting me all set up. I'm using a little bit more sophisticated system than I've used in the past, and I think we're all good to go. I'm going to try my best to keep on top of the message board. I see that everything seems to be going well so far. I see a lot of people are starting to get logged in, so I appreciate that. And as I can, we'll see what we can do. I see the likes of Jordan Castro, Ronald Harkey, AJ Risley, Country Disc Golf, so many of the regular smashies that we see. This is going to be a little bit different. I don't have Johnny V right next to me like I normally do. So I'll be switching a few of the things. It's going to be a pretty straightforward show. I've got 5 clips that I've put together. I'd like to introduce them, talk about them, talk before them, talk a little bit after them, and then get your input regarding those clips as I'm kind of reminiscing the 2016 season. Traveled more than I've ever traveled before. I was gone more than I've ever been gone before. Did a ton of recording. We did a ton of live broadcasting as well with Smashbox. So these are going to be some of those moments that I'd like to reflect on here in the season. If you could, give me a like, a thumbs up. I see you on the board. Not fancy enough to be streaming quite to the to Facebook for this particular night, and this probably won't turn into an audio podcast, so you're kind of stuck staring at my mug and watching all this action on YouTube as we move forward. So hopefully everybody's excited. Again, lots of enthusiasm. Pablo, hi, how you doing? Dang, look at all those discs. Those are literally just a tiny smattering that we've got in the background. Joe Sixpack says, what's in store for 2017? I can just say a ton of coverage, both live and recorded. We've got a few things up our sleeves. And of course, you're going to see our podcast continue to thrive on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Central. That'll be regular. Me doing something on my own on another night of the week may or may not become a regular thing. I know Johnny V's got something else in the works as well regarding fantasy disc golf. So just doing everything we can to be your central portal for as much disc golf news and resources and information as we possibly can. Stable Stan says, let's get right to it. When's the giveaway? I don't know, Stable Stan. You may have to stick around for like 2 to 9 hours to figure out when there's going to be a giveaway. Nick, thanks for the love on the haircut. I didn't get one. Ken, I did. You saw me at the Christmas Open. Awesome. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that footage. It was a lot of fun to shoot. I went off on a little bit of a different... I didn't go full auto, as all the video guys out there would usually chuckle at me for. I had a few manual settings, and I also played with the frame rate. And for all purposes, I think it turned out really well. I think the coloring was a little bit better than what I normally have. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that crazy battle that took place between Steve Rico and ultimately Max Nichols, and it came all the way down to the bitter end. So go out. Front 9 is available, as well as the back 9, along with a little bit of an interview. So pretty sweet. Mash chat. Thanks, Josh. He says I'm the man. I don't know about that, but I do appreciate it. So again, good solid crowd, 50 people watching, and I really appreciate it. And Andrew says he likes the wall the wall work. I've got a couple pretty sweet trophies. The picture up there is from 2003 Pro Worlds that took place in Arizona. I've got a picture with one of my daughters on a disc, and then the wooden one is a trophy, probably my largest singles win. It was a huge B tier in Wisconsin at one of my favorite places, Sandy Point Resort, and took home about $600 for a huge B tier win for that event, and then a nice piece of metal artwork as well that's all up there. So all right, let's see. Braden asked if I'm coming into the next gen finale. That's a great question. I've sent a few messages to Dave Felberg, and he said, I'll call you tonight, I promise. He didn't call me. So, Dave, I'm calling you out. You didn't call me to talk about the weekend. So, let's see if we can get something going. It's only like 3 weeks away. I would think 3 weeks from tonight is when I'd probably be heading down if I'm gonna go to over to Maricopa, or there's also an event going on in Alabama and some special things going on. All right, Matt Oswald, thanks for joining. Trip to Finland in 2017. Nobody's reached out to me about that. I don't think that's gonna probably happen. I'd love it if it did, but no one's reached out. Ronald Harkey asked what the picture on the wall is. Yep, I answered that. And yes, certainly shame on Dave. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to do my best. What I'm going to do next is get to my number. Well, I've got a couple honorable mentions, and I think I need to pull up my document earlier that I had regarding those, because there were so many different just awesome events, awesome places, and that's where I feel like I can break this out into a couple of different podcasts ultimately. Like I said, venues or maybe new events that I've been to that I hadn't been to in the past. I feel like that's a solid conversation, because I had the honor of and the pleasure of going to so many other awesome events as well. But let me see if I can break out some of my honorable mentions for my memories in 2016. It was suggested I put it together into a video, and I just haven't assembled it. So I would say one of my most memorable moments with a camera as part of a gallery and a crowd was actually going down to Wrigley Field. I did it a few times. I live about 90 minutes north of there. I swear I'll get back to the disc golf, but I am a Chicago Cubs fan. I have been all of my life, even though I live right here in Milwaukee right now, or Milwaukee area. And 3 or 4 or 5 different times during the playoffs, I went down and took a camera. I took still photography. I took video cameras along. I did GoPros. I've done a little bit of everything. And being there outside of Wrigley Field, I didn't go into any of the games. I don't have that much money. But going and being around Wrigley Field and how electrifying it was, I was not only there during a bunch of the playoff games, but also during a couple of the World Series games where I was outside with thousands of other people. So that has to get an honorable mention, and it's all fitting. I wasn't of course, in Cleveland, but I was at a park and rec show trying to promote disc golf and get courses into land all around Wisconsin, park and rec departments all around Wisconsin. It was that night and that trade show that was going on, which was the night when the Cubs ultimately won it in Game 7. So, all right, so that gets an honorable mention. Another honorable mention, and these kind of go hand in hand, and these are definitely a little bit more generic, and there was no perfect way to put them all in video form, but an honorable mention has to go to Smashbox TV and our granting or our working with both the events as well as the PDGA to bring you 3 live NT events. So generically speaking, just Smashbox bringing you live NT events was an awesome memory. It was great that we feel like live disc golf has obviously been embraced. It's not perfect, and we're continuing to improve, and we're continuing to do everything we can with the budgets that we have, and I think we're proving value to people that live disc golf is something that's worth watching. Of course, a lot of people love watching it the next day in a condensed format, and we think that's awesome. But we also know that there's definitely a need for live disc golf. And the fact that the PDGA is willing to support us for multiple NT events along with the events themselves was huge. And that's a great memory. And in a similar sense, Steve Dodge contacting us in 2015 saying that he's committed to live broadcasting for all of 2016. That was a really special phone call. Again, Steve Dodge believing in us and seeing us grow and improve throughout 2014, 2015 season, and then saying, yes, we want live disc golf for all of the Pro Tour events in 2016. That was a pretty awesome memory and something that we'll never forget, the support that we've gotten from people like Steve and the PDGA. Another honorable mention, again, we'll call it a tie for 5th place or 6th place before I get to actually some of the video here. Attending events in places like Alaska and Nantucket are just memories I'll never forget. And both of them were very special, very unique, amazing hospitality, amazing host and tournament directors. I could go on for hours and hours about those 2 trips alone, and I won't, but they definitely come in the tie for 6th place in the honorable mention. You're going to hear me talking about them more when it comes to either new events or some of the venues that I visited in 2016, again, for another podcast. But wow, just what we experienced Nantucket and Alaska. I'd say put them on your bucket list. I'd say make sure you get to them. I know, honestly, they're not that easy to get to, and some can be a little bit expensive, but if you can find any way to work them into your schedule, into what you're doing, into your touring, whatever it is, those are 2 great events and 2 awesome places to be. So, finally, after 12 minutes of babbling, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to be able to give you my top 5 moments, specifically number 5. We've seen it referenced dozens of times, so it's honestly, it's no surprise that it's also a memory for me. I think it's a memory for tens of thousands of people ultimately, and it has gone down, and I'm blessed to say this, it has gone down, I believe, as the single most watched disc golf round of the year. Of course, Philo and his Albatross, which is an awesome memory. It's not one that I was particularly tied to, other than being a few holes away when it happened. And congrats to all of those guys. So that's a great memory. That's a great moment. But I was sticking with things that were very personally tied to me. And I gotta say, the overall battle between Ricky and Paul is a memory that I shall never forget. Now, you could say that generically. You could say, well, they battled all year, it went back and forth. I think one that stands out, and the one I'm referencing the most, is in fact Ricky and Paul at the Masters Cup. The show that they put on after playing for a couple days over at the regular De La Viega course, and then moving on to the ball golf course, and thanks to Braden and everyone else involved in DGA and all of the sponsors to make that even remotely possible, was something different. It was exciting. Of course, some people loved it, some people didn't. It didn't matter. It was monumental, and if you're going to take events and you're going to take galleries, you're going to take videos, you're going to take all that to the next level, it's got to start somewhere. So Braden and DGA and the entire crew at the Masters Cup did just that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut over and I'm going to give you just a couple of the clips. And again, you've seen most of these, maybe not from this angle. We had multiple angles. I worked with Joe Height, who got great angles that you continue to see. Alta World put out a top 10 putts of the year. And I'm honored to say 4 or 5 or 6 of them came from our crews and our camera throughout. But here's what I'm going to cue up. This is Ricky and Paul. They battled back and forth this year, and they did it very early on, especially at the Masters Cup. And I'm going to cut to those now. I hope the volume is at just about the right level. I can try and talk over it, but I want you guys to sit back and enjoy just a couple of the highlights. This is just 2 or 3 of the shots. Here's a few of the highlights in my number 5 memory of 2016. And Ricky banging from outside of 100 feet to save the par after going OB. And Paul McBeth just inside that to try and answer. The stutter step, McBeth, and then of course to seal it. And there you have it. That's the 5th best memory I had here in 2016. I gotta say, if that's my 5th best, hopefully you guys are excited about what else is in store. I'm almost at a loss for words, because when I think about their putting, I think about Paul, I think about Ricky, and how deadly Ricky is. And we talk about it extensively when we're out there live broadcasting, that anything inside 50, 60, 70 feet, you can no longer be surprised by, because Ricky is just really that good at putting, and Paul is automatic as well. Anytime he's got a putter in his hands, it seems like. So they went back and forth, stroke for stroke, and as we all know, Ricky Wysocki ultimately thrown in the dagger on the final hole, both figuratively and literally. So that was my number 5 moment. Again, thank you to all of you guys over at DGA that helped out, and over at Braden. So there you go. John Hendricks says, Terry, you rock, bud, but I gotta work early. Keep up the outstanding work. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. Get to bed. I know I started a good hour later than I was hoping for tonight, a little more than that. But thanks to Johnny, we got us all up and running. So, Country Disc Golf asked how would you compare Wysocki and McBeth's putting to when Climo when is in his prime? I didn't see as much of Climo. I mean, I knew of him. I knew of his dominance, and met him in 93 or 94 in the midst of it, but there was no YouTube, and you didn't get to see our top players like you do today and have any week in and week out. The tours and the events weren't as consistent. Climo has always been automatic. I don't think there's a conversation or a doubt about that. He's always been a solid putter. I'd be interested to see how he would answer if he felt like he had the range. I don't think you would see Climo drop in as nearly as many 60 and 70 footers as what we see today, namely by Wysocki. McBeth's no slouch. Nico's no slouch. I think, though, that Climo didn't have quite the range. Could he put in 38 out of 39 in a weekend inside or around the circle? Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. I don't know if you put him at 60 feet if he was nearly as deadly as Ricky is. And we all know when you have that extra 10, 20, 30 feet, you're going to pick up strokes on the rest of the field. You're automatic inside the circle, inside 33 feet. But when you're dropping in a 60-footer and you're doing it once around, and that adds up to 3 or 4 strokes over a weekend, that could be the difference between you and someone who just shot 1060 golf all weekend and averaged that. So very nice. Chipmunk Gate is somebody Brody has mentioned out on the line. That was pretty funny. For those that aren't familiar, it was during the playoff between Bradley Williams and Michael Johansson at the Vibram Open this year. And there was a approach shot that was thrown that looked as if it hit off a chipmunk and then actually skirted out of bounds during the playoff on hole number 1, and that was not, in fact, the case. I think it was a weekend or two later that a few people had kind of gathered up a couple more angles, believe it or not. We're at that point in disc golf, folks, where we actually lined up 2 or 3 other cameras, and we could tell with some slow motion that the disc did not actually hit the chipmunk. It looked like it did, but it did not hit the chipmunk. But certainly a very fond and unique memory as well here in 2016. BCI Fishing asked, do you own Glide Disc Golf in Madison? And I absolutely don't. That is Mike Batka over in Madison, Wisconsin. He owns Glide Disc Golf, originally with a partner, and I believe that he ultimately bought the partner out, and now Mike owns it exclusively. Awesome pro shop, literally across the street from Hole 1 over at High Stand Park in Madison. Many of you are familiar if you attended the Amateur World Championships here in 2016. Also, what I would consider an honorable mention, being there for the final day. I was there throughout the week. I wasn't contracted by anyone, so I just kind of did it on my own time, and I went over toward Madison, which is about 60 to 80 minutes west of me, down Interstate 94, and I just took in a few days action. I was honored that I took one photo of a few of the women in the advanced women's division, and then ultimately Val Jenkins selected that to be in the Disc Golf for Women calendar, so I'm a published photographer for once. And then I got the finals, where we saw a couple of great battles, including Isaac McDonald, who ultimately went on to become your champion, and that video is out there as well. So certainly a great memory. Am Worlds, Wisconsin, Madison, all really good stuff. Tom Julio, good to see you, Tom. I was just thinking about you the other day, buddy. I haven't seen you in a couple years, probably. I think you're still over in Michigan, which has great golf. And you said, speaking of putting, what have you seen style-wise that has changed from 10 years ago that has made the youth a bit more deadly? It's a great question. And there's been some more aggression, maybe, and I don't say that in a negative way. I feel like putting's gotten more aggressive, but then in getting more aggressive, I think there's a confidence there. And so when a Ricky Wysocki or a Paul Macbeth or anyone is running a putt that a lot of people would be more than comfortable laying up, for instance, a 50-footer, yeah, I mean, if in the right conditions, you definitely want to give it a run. But these guys, they just go at it, and it doesn't matter the speed. It rarely matters, their terrain. And I feel they're just so confident in their comeback. So that's not necessarily a style question. I think it's more of a mindset or a mentality. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that. And confident putters is that's something to be scared about. There's all too often this year, and I used to be a decent player, but there's far too many times this year I've watched someone miss a putt, name any one of our top players, and they left themselves with 18, 20, 24 feet. And I'll say Macbeth, especially when he's maybe frustrated, he walks up without hesitation and then throws that in for 24 feet. He could do it with his eyes closed. And yeah, those should be gimmies, but those are ones that can make a 960, a 980 rated player maybe take a little bit more time, and the thought enters their mind, oh man, I'm putting now I'm putting for 3. I was just putting for birdie, and now I got to do this just to save the 3. And that's definitely difference in some of our uppermost echelon players. I think you're seeing a little bit more lofty putts. Ricky's putt, I think, is something that you're going to see more people emulate. I don't know about the spin putt as much. I'm a spin putter myself, and I love it. But when you see Ricky and Nico from long range, it's hard not to kind of adapt or at least think about how they're doing it and think you may want to put that into your game. All right. Get back to it. Of people talking about Madison, yes, High Stand course is great, Token Creek course is great. Those are all awesome. DMC says, Terry, we need folks from the Chicagoland area. Need you out there and check out the new courses. I know you played Shanahan years ago. Yes, it's been a long time since I've played down there. And there are some good courses and a lot of golf in Illinois, Wisconsin, the entire Midwest. Josh says that he's from Michigan, and Wisconsin has some of the best courses he's ever played. I definitely agree with that. Hey, Rick, it's a little late for you, buddy, over on the East Coast, but good to see and hear from you there, buddy. All right, so I think we're ready for number 4. I'm going to get over to my nifty system here and do all of this on my own. I think I've got it. Number 4, I'm going to set this up. I just mentioned them. We talked about putting. Please keep in mind, this is a memorable moment. It was highly talked about. I don't feel like it was really controversial. I didn't try to make it controversial, and I'm not trying to make it controversial here. It just was one of those moments. It was kind of a defining moment. It showed so many different emotions. And what it really did is I feel like it really set up for showing the world that there's a little bit of that chaos, a little bit of that confusion, and there's things that happen, I'll say, in the battlefield that aren't necessarily, that don't translate, and I don't know, there's a lot of different moving parts here. And what I'm talking about is the Kansas City Wide Open. Ricky Wysocki was in town. He was not in Konopiste, where a few of the other players were. And we had a rainy, frustrating final day. It was arguably the most wet I got all year during that final round. But I think you guys are going to like this. This is coming in at number 4. We'll sit back, and this one I'm going to give you all the audio.
Waiting for something?
No, why are you staring me down?
Because you're staring me down.
And there you have it. I'm sorry. It still makes me chuckle. It was a unique situation where there was no reason other than the hardship that was brought about during that day. Try to spit all that out. And I filmed Nico LaCastro simply retrieving a disc out of the basket after a short tap in to set it up even a few minutes prior to that, which I'm now thinking I should have shown as well. Nico had a straddle putt. It was maybe 30, 35 feet at most. He had a bush directly in his swinging motion. It was wet. It was rainy. This is a tricky par 3 that most players would like to get. You see rollers and various shots taken to get to it. And he had lined himself up, and it was right off the front of the basket. Almost directly on line, just off the front of the basket, and he was frustrated. He was not having the best round. He was not having the best time. I believe it was raining, and it was just a really interesting moment. And again, I said it back then, and I'll say it today. Nico and I are on perfectly fine terms. I feel like any cameraman that was sitting there and stayed tight on the shot probably would have got the same reaction. So there's no bad blood between the two of us. It was one of those moments. It was a moment that, a lot of the board says classic Nico. Nico being maybe a little bit frustrated. Nico's a very passionate player. We've all said that and heard that a million times. I wasn't waiting for anything. I was simply following out the shot, but we all do know that there's been times where he's been known to get frustrated, and there's even a bigger conversation there as to whether it should be recorded by me or anyone else and or displayed. If we're live, we can't cut from that. If we're post-production, there is the opportunity. One could argue I could have cut that out of the video. I didn't feel like it was harming to anyone. I didn't feel like it really painted anyone in a bad light or a negative light. It was just an interesting interaction. And at that point, it was just Nico and me as we were clearing out that hole. And I guess all I can say, it was interesting. Yeah, it was. And hence, a reason why when I think back on 2015 or 16, that was one of those moments. Maybe not a warm and fuzzy, but it was one of those moments that, or memories that really jumps out at me. And I think it did for a lot of people because there was a huge conversation about it. Again, one of the great reasons why I wanted to make sure that it was, listed in 2016's top memories. As I move over to the board, I'll see if I can catch up with a few comments. People talking about filming. Rick says he filmed him at Vibram. He blew up on a hole, and then he got over. Then he got the ace over the water, which was awesome. Huge thanks to Rick for capturing that shot. Nico aced hole 8, and then people kind of even got on him there, saying, maybe his celebration was a little too exuberant. It was a little too much. It was a little too loud or whatever. At that point, Nico could probably throw up his hands and say, I can't win. You badger me for getting down on myself, and then you yell at me for getting too excited. There's probably a happy medium in there somewhere, but it's definitely interesting. Anytime Nico's on the course, there's fireworks that could be had at any given moment. Tom says, always recorded. That is what sports journalism is. The truth, as painful and as human as it is, i.e. the wide world of sports intro. I thank you, Tom. I agree. I do feel like that's all part of it. It shows the anguish. It can show the frustration. Every player has gone through that. Every player has had an off-putting day where just nothing's going right, and they feel like unless they're 2 feet away, it's not going to go in. And lots of players express that in various ways. And Nico's got a lot of different emotions going on. So Andrew Ryan asks if didn't Coling call him out at some point this year for doing something along those lines. And the answer is yes. There was a conversation. I was not there, but at the USDGC this year, it sounded as if there was a time where Nico was maybe a little frustrated, and I think Big Germ, in so many words, gave him a light or polite verbal type warning or something that was more along the lines of like, hey, let's pick it up, we're good, get over it, that kind of thing, which was probably one of the most polite ways you can, so to speak, warn someone without warning them. Brody asks, be honest, were you scared? I wasn't scared. Nico, I've never seen Nico get physically aggressive with anyone. I've seen him get frustrated with himself. I've been worried that he might knock himself out, but I've never seen him get into any altercation or frustrated physically with anyone. I definitely haven't recorded it anyway. And Tom said, did he ever react to you putting that moment in the video? Not that I know of. We've never really talked about it. And again, Tom Julio said it best. I'm there to do a job. I'm there to report what happens. And it becomes a really sticky situation if you want to talk about who should be censoring whom. And same could be said about swearing of any player. If Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, Jen Allen, Paige Pierce, anyone blurts out an F word or any other kind of obscenity, the question always comes to who needs to edit that. Should that not go in? Should it go in as is? Do the sponsors care? Does the event care? Does the PDGA care? There's all of these different considerations, and we're not a crew of hundreds of people with hundreds of editors getting paid real money. We're none of that. So it's always kind of a little bit of a struggle internally as to who is responsible for what. Because if somebody's having a bad day, I don't think it's fair that I have to spend an extra 2 or 4 or 10 minutes or hour editing, situations. So anyway, I'll move on from that. Yes, Remo says, Germ said, stop that when Rico was hurting the basket. And again, yeah, USDGC sounds like that was exactly where it was taking place, which is what I'd heard earlier in the year. And someone says, Darth of Empathy says, as far as filming moments, that can make the sport look bad. It's a judgment call. And that's exactly it. My concern mostly about the event sponsors, someone's parents watching, some 8-year-old that's watching. Do I concern myself with what the player themselves think about me putting it in? There is a ton of considerations there, and there's no perfect answer. There really isn't. One could start arguing about First Amendments and censorships and blah, blah, blah. There's every different direction it could be argued. I don't think there's a perfect way to do it, but I feel like you're on camera, you're on a lead card, your actions very well could be portrayed on a video and indefinitely. So I feel like that's warning enough. So we'll move on from that. Tom says he agrees it was a fine to put it in the video. It was a moment of realness, and that's exactly why I feel like it was a memory for me. Disc golf should take a step backward toward the groovy and get perspective before moving forward on the formality and seriousness. Just your opinion. Spirit of the game, let it fly. I don't disagree with that, but we're talking about real money now. We're talking about real businesses. And yes, everybody should have the spirit of the game of essentially getting out there and throwing a piece of plastic around. Or rubber, Vibram. We all know that. But there is an element of seriousness, and if we want to be taken serious, I think we have to act professionally and be serious and act professionally. All right, the first thing you said on camera. So I think at first you said on camera. So, okay, paintball is notorious for that issue. WT Force, Wade, how you doing, buddy, from Michigan? Good to see you and hear from you. Sorry it's so late over there. And Ron says these are professional. So I think that is going to about cue me up. I think we've talked about that plenty. I'm going to cue me up. Now this one is a little bit, this is definitely personal. And there's an additional element to it. I don't think, I don't know, happenstance or coincidence, irony, I don't know what it is. We're going to rewind a little bit to the Worlds. Admittedly, first time in 21 years, I did not play in the World Championships. I feel like that in itself is kind of its own good or bad memory. I've literally played in the last 20 World Championships. I think I did 4 as an amateur when I first started, and then 16 in a row as a professional. Cashed in a few, not many, but a few, including 29th or 27th or something in 2007. I think that was my best ever finish among some really solid players. Funny to think my first cash in 2003 at a Worlds, I think I just barely beat or tied Johnny McRae, and a young Johnny McRae, and a up-and-coming Jay Redding. I think were two of the guys that were near me, right around 40th place. Anyway, so I didn't play Worlds this year. Of course, Smashbox was contracted with both DD and the PDGA to go down and give you a live World Championships. And that was an amazing experience in itself. And the year before, I had visited, after driving through the night to Pittsburgh in 2015, I showed up to the mixed doubles, and I recorded a phenomenal round where Big Germ and Paige Pierce were crowned champions and played a phenomenal alternate shot round, which is what took them into the championship. And this year, when I arrived in Emporia, I believe I got there on Friday. I had sliced my leg open on Wednesday, as many of you know, 14 staples and 8 stitches later. And I arrived in Emporia on either Friday or Saturday. And Saturday it was raining out. And of course, Ron Converse, as I was sitting in the DD storefront during the first round debating about going out there, Ron Converse snapped a picture of me sitting on the couch saying, yeah, you know, something about me not doing real work, because I'm just lounging. Sorry, from a close-up, I'm going to adjust. For me lounging. And I talked to my roommate and one of our cameramen, Joe Height. And the conversation was about him maybe doing some work or some editing in the hotel because it was raining. And I said, I really want to go out and I want to film the doubles. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And we kind of went back and forth about it. And finally, I said, I'm going to go out. I don't care if it's raining. I need to cover this. They're playing in it. I need to cover it. Let's go out there. There's a ton of amazing players. I want to know the storyline. I want to know what's happening. That will feed into me for the week. And I went out there and I started following around some various players. And sure enough, Jones East is where it was at. And they were playing alternate shot. And Big Germ and Paige were up. And I want to say hole 10. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut to the memory. And this one's extra special because not only did I film it after a discussion about not even going out that day, I filmed it, edited it together, got it submitted, got it onto ESPN, and then that night, when it did hit ESPN, I was actually at the local bar in Emporia where Paige was, and we got to see it come up on the screen and then get a little bit of a Paige reaction all via my cell phone. So it's not fancy, it's not elaborate, but solely capturing this ace and then submitting it and getting it on ESPN was a memory I will never forget. I got to thank Paige for throwing the shot. Smashbox and the Disc Golf Guy channel have gotten a number of aces and have gotten them onto ESPN. And more often than not, it's somebody doing some form of the camera work or whatever the case might be, like Rick did with Nico LaCastro at the Vibram. This one was solely me, and it was only because I made sure to go out there because it needed to be covered. And for that, I'm here at number 3. Here we go.
Yes! What just happened, Paige?
Sorry. Let's see if we can start it over.
Tell us about
I
it.
don't know how I can start it over.
Threw it in. Second time this week, baby.
Sorry. All right, I'm not sure how. I want to start that over, and I'm not sure that I can for you guys. I apologize. It was like it was mid shot. Let's see if I can make this happen again. Hang with me. Ooh, Johnny would be so proud. Let's see if this works. I'm not sure that's going to work, but we're going to give it a whirl. Here's number 3 with Paige Pierce.
There it is!
Hey! I'm in Sports Center! I did it! Yeah! Whoa, that worked out anyways.
What do you think, Paige?
What up? Good footage, Terry!
Basket!
Yes! What just happened, Paige? Tell us about it.
Threw it in. Second time this week, baby.
There it is!
And there you have it. Sorry about the slight out of order for you guys. It was, in fact, hole 10. Robert McCall, thank you for helping out there. It was amazing. So not only recording it, her reaction and all that good stuff, but then getting it to the ESPN folks, and then being there when Paige saw it debut for the first time that night on SportsCenter, all just really awesome. And I'm in the right place at the right time, and Paige throws the amazing shot. That's the real moral of the story there. So that's how it went down. So sorry about the video itself playing. I think that's the thing that I just learned is I think if the video was mid-video when it comes in, I don't know. That's a Johnny V question. That's why we let the pros handle that. So great shot, great memory. If I'm ever gonna after breaking a 20-year streak of playing in the World Championships, to go out and get something like that, it just started the week off right, is I guess the best way to put it. It ended up being a long, very hot, grueling week with a ton of different coverage, but to start it off the way that we did and to have that be take place right away on Saturday was a moment, like I said, I'll just never forget. So great memory. Huge shout out not only to Paige but also to all the Dynamic Disc crew, Bobby Brown and Jeremy Rusko and Robert McCall and Dixon Jowers and all the people that we work with, whether it was live or recorded. We thank you guys so much for the opportunity, and we certainly look forward to anytime we can get back to Emporia. Looking forward to the 2017 National Tour event taking place in Emporia. So looking forward to all of that in the upcoming year. All right. Let's see if there's any comments out on the board. Yeah, Robert originally giving us a props for the capture was good. I feel like we really I got the shot well. It just, unfortunately, in bringing it into my player here for you guys tonight, it didn't go in the order that it should have. It didn't look quite as good as it should have, but it's all out there. It's on YouTube if you do need to see it. Someone on the board says, thanks to Ron Harkey for letting me know that this is on right now. And if I can ever afford it, I will buy an Infinity since their commercial ran just before you came on. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think I get any kickback. I might get a fraction of a penny or a halfpenny or something if you clicked on the commercial. But yeah, I get no kickbacks. All right. So thank you to all of you guys. That's what I can say. And let's move on. And I'm going to admit, the last one was, well, I mean, they're all my memories. So they're all a little bit selfish in some regards. The next one was just a lot of luck. I'll set it up by saying that early on in the year, I had made a call to a particular 3-time world champion. And we started talking about scheduling and possibilities of different things. And lo and behold, due to the scheduling of a wedding in which his wife, Valerie, was standing up in Ohio, it worked out that Nate Doss could come to Wisconsin, play some disc golf, but more importantly, he could join me and the other 10 people on my team for a 12-person team tournament. This is the Sandy Point Team Invitational, which takes place in northern Wisconsin. You've heard me say countless times, Sandy Point is one of my favorite places on the planet. SandyPT.com is where you can check it out. It's Sandy Point Resort and Disc Golf Ranch, owned by Mike and Michelle Cousins. And there's 27 holes, along with then cabins that can be rented for the week. Cabins, which are really houses, that can be rented for the week. And 2 times a year, my 2 favorite events take place. And that is the Team Invitational, which takes place usually right around Memorial Day weekend or the weekend after. And then Labor Day weekend is when the Northwoods Open takes place. And again, that's where one of the trophies in the back comes from, one of my favorite events. And getting Nate with the schedules aligning just the way they did was, again, just dumb luck. They ultimately were going to miss out on the Beaver State Fling the very next weekend. It was the second weekend in June, I believe, when they had the actual wedding, which Val was standing up in. And it was the weekend right after the St. Jude event had just taken place, and they had to get from California over to Wisconsin. And they did just that. They drove all the way across in 3 or so days. And Nate put Val on a plane, and she went over to Ohio for what was going to be a bachelorette weekend. And he and I hopped in Big Blue, the van, and we headed to northern Wisconsin, which is about 4.5, 5 hours or so to get up to northern Wisconsin to where this event is. And Nate was on our team, thanks to a stubborn Scotty Tuhati, a Wisconsin, ex-Wisconsin pro. Nate actually took the number 2 spot on our 12-person team. It's comprised of 5 pros, 2 masters, 1 grandmaster, 1 woman, and 3 advanced players. And so when it was all said and done and it all shook out, we had Nate in the 2 spot, and the team was ready to go. We won it in 2014, which was a dream come true. I was the captain for it for Team Alliance, and never in a million years did I think of winning that event as a team. And then to come back, 2015 we won it. To come back then in 2016 with a little bit even stronger team, adding Nate, of course, was just exciting. And he's heard so much about the place. Him and Val both played up at Highbridge, which is kind of sort of near there with an hour and a half for the 2007 Worlds, the Pro World Championships, where Val won. And so to get him on the property, to have him interact with Mike and Michelle, and to see the place that I hold so dear to my heart, and I've had so many memories dating all the way back to the early 90s, was really cool. And so by the time Nate got up here, like I said, we spent a day or so in Milwaukee. We went north for the 3 or 4 days, and then when we got back here to Milwaukee, Nate joined us on what has turned out to be one of our most popular podcasts to date. So we got a brewery tour in and did a number of other things. So it was really exciting, really special to have him here. It's not going to work out that he or I are going to be able to attend this year. And so for the first time, I won't be a captain, and I'll leave my two-time defending title team in the hands of someone else. And that's because I'm going to be covering a Pro Tour stop. So my two favorite events of the year are the team tournament and the Northwoods Open, that both take place, or virtually the only two tournaments I have left to play these days. And because of the schedule for 2017, I'll be covering Pro Tour stops both of those weekends. So I'm going to miss out on them. It literally has made me cry. And unfortunately, work calls, and when I'm one of the head guys to help out there with Smashbox, there's just no getting around it. So I'll miss those in 2017. But one of my greatest 2016 memories coming in, we're going to hope that this one works for us as well as the first two did so nicely. Coming in at number 2, this is a little snippet of what took place up at Sandy Point Resort and Disc Golf Ranch with Nate Doss.
Team valet, because they park everything. We'll see about that.
Rec Center hole. Hole number 25 at Sandy Point. And just a few feet to the right of that tee pad is actually the cabin I stay at each year.
The Wisconsin Frisbee Disc Golf Hall of Fame. Let's find out who's in this Hall of Fame here.
And this was not set up or any kind of plug.
It's a lot of history here, Wisconsin. Wow, second guy. It's Mr. Terry Miller. The disc golf guy. Wow, that was that's your team alliance, right?
This is Nate Doss's first time, and I'm honored that he got to come up here and experience it. And thank you for coming up here. Thanks for being part of it, and thanks for helping win. All right, thank you guys. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Which is right here.
And that was my number 2 memory of 2016. Again, 3-time world champ Nate Doss coming to Wisconsin, not just getting to play. So many people get worked up and say, oh man, so-and-so's never even been to our state to play, and they just want a glimpse of them. But to have Nate come up, experience a little bit of Wisconsin disc golf, go to one of my favorite places in the world, compete, play in a team atmosphere, meet the other 10 or so people on the team, men and women, meet everyone on the team, to gel and interact, and then when it was all said and done, to be able to hoist a trophy along with first place, I just felt like it was an all-around awesome weekend. Nate, as many of you learned, Nate ultimately went back to the San Diego team tournament in December, where he was representing in Oregon, and he actually, Team Oregon won that as well. So I think Nate is, in fact, the only person to, within the same year, be on a winning team of those two serious team events. So thanks, Nate. It was awesome having you. Thanks for being on the team. It sucks that 2017 is not going to work, but maybe some year in the future we might be able to get you and hopefully Val up to Sandy Point so you guys can experience everything that it is, and just the amazing atmosphere, and the course is relatively easy by, say, touring pro standards, but it's as much fun as you can have out there playing disc golf anywhere, and being able to stay right on site and have the experience that you can with Mike and Michelle Cousins and the beautiful resort that it is. Again, that's sandypt.com. Mike doesn't pay me anything. Well, he occasionally throws me a thing or two, but I've been talking up their place for literally 20 years now, because I just think it's that amazing, and it's one of my favorite places in the country to be. So check it out. Get out there, play a round of golf. They're usually pretty booked, so it's tough to get in there if you want to get you or your family in there for an entire week. But if you're going to take a disc golf vacation anywhere in the Midwest, you need to get to Sandy Point. And while you're there, when you're done there, jump over to the Twin Cities, play some golf in Minnesota. There's so much good golf in Wisconsin and Minnesota and the entire Midwestern area. So it looks like everyone is good on the board. Thank you guys. So far, so good. Josh asks, how do you get into working with me? Send me a message on Facebook. That's a start. Most people have learned there's not a lot of budget, which immediately turns off people, understandably. But let us know what you can do, what your skill sets are, where you are. Can you travel? Are you full-time? Are you part-time? Do you just want to be along? Give us a little bit of a breakdown and a rundown. We've met up with some amazing people that are going to be joining us here for the 2017 season. But I know me and the Disc Golf Guy channel could always use additional content and additional work. So if there's something that you're good with, just let me know, by all means. Robert says he could use a disc golf vacation. It doesn't get much better than that. The snow might not be gone until like April or May, maybe even June, but if you can get up there during the June to September or October time frame, that's when you should be checking out Sandy Point Resort for sure. Before I get to number one, I should probably have a giveaway. I'm looking at all these discs. I apologize. I know some of you guys are clamoring about it. I'm always in shifting and organization mode, or reorg mode, maybe. One of the exciting things that I see that was just at my fingertips. Oh no, I gotta find where I put them. Excuse me as I lean back. One of the exciting things I see here in my office, I don't think I can give these away just yet, would be talk about making memories. The Disc Golf Pro Tour cards that came out. Hopefully that's lining up. The cards. This is the entire set. All 61 players without the venue cards. Here is the individual packs that were available. Talk about a unique and exciting addition to our sport this year. Many people, you see an Avery Jenkins or a Ken Clymo or a Paul McBessay. I grew up collecting cards or thinking about baseball cards, and just the idea of having one, probably, at least not for the sport of disc golf, was ever really a serious thought. And now we've seen a number of them. Like I said, Clymo a few years ago along with Avery, and Paul McBeth, and now seeing the Disc Golf Pro Tour cards emerge thanks to Steve Dodge and the Pro Tour has been certainly something that's very cool to see this year. All right, so besides that, I was just thinking I should be giving something away, and the Pro Tour cards, I'm still hoarding them. I'm still going through them and hoarding and making sets and packs and making up collections of my own. I have some of the pre-assembled packs or sets, but then I also am continuing to make them on my own as I open up the packs and get really excited about who's all in them and trading them and getting the venue and the champion cards. But what I think I should be doing is giving some of these discs away that are in my office, and I've got lots of manufacturers, lots of various random items from super collectible and rare and limited to maybe just a little bit different than a stock item. Some of you that are hardcore, especially on Facebook, hardcore collectors, you got these silly Josh Anthon Star Destroyers. You see those get raffled for a couple $100 off and on. Kind of crazy. How about, I got a couple of Discraft. Here's another memory maker this year, the Mini Buzz that came out. I definitely think that was a story within 2016. Who had ever thought so many people would care about minis, and the fact that this comes in at the largest possible size it can to be still a legal mini, and then watching people throw these hundreds and hundreds of feet. Kudos to you, Discraft. Very cool. Yeah, some people are saying Year of the Mini Buzz is certainly, this is one of the favorites that I picked out. I'd given a few away a couple weeks ago, but that was one of the cool looking ones. Let's see, and speaking of a Buzz, here's an old school one that I just dug out the other day. Sorry to drag this on, but this is a pretty old school Buzz for the Flying Penguin event. This is like 7, 8, 9 years old. Silly stuff. Silly stuff. All right, let's find something to give away. That's what's important here. Gosh, I just don't even know. Oh, here's a unique disc that I came across earlier today. This is a First Run Outlaw, great disc by Legacy, my guys over there, with a Paul McBeth signature. Not that any of our pros don't sign disc because it says a certain name, but Paul's good friends with them and whatnot, and I thought one of the first Outlaws that I got my hands on, I thought it was pretty cool to have McBeth sign it. And here's great memory from 15, the Rocky Mountain Women's event, an event I'll be looking to hit up this year. All right, here we go. We're going to go with, let's pull this one out of the bag. I think I was going to sell it, but now it just became yours, one way or another. All right. This is a CFR Color Glow Champion Thunderbird. So it's bluish in color, completely nude top to it, nothing on it. And then if you can see that, I'm going to see how well I'm doing here. If you look at that, it says Cold Turkey 11. Thanks to Jen for the help on that. Yep, there you go. Cold Turkey. Yeah, those drumsticks are 11s. It was the 11th year I ran this event this year, and thanks to Innova for helping out with this particular event. Jim Brown going with the all too easy Starfire as the answer. Now, the challenge, as always, is I have to think of a really good question in order for me to get to have you win this and have me mail it out to you tomorrow. I'm running an event this weekend as well. C-tier, chaining in the new year. If you're in the Milwaukee area, Wisconsin, you should come. All right, I'll have to think about that, but this is going to be the giveaway. Ooh, I've got a great idea. Let me look up the answer to confirm. And while I do that, I know that's the last thing you want me doing is looking up stuff. But while I do this, ooh, that's interesting. This will be, in fact, this will ultimately be the trivia question, but I want to know it first. Know my answer. That makes sense, right? Excuse my stalling here for a moment as I look at this. There's a click there. I'm going to tell you right now, very few of you will know this answer off the top of your head. I know I didn't, and I was there. Very few of you will know this answer, so it may become a little bit of a Google related answer. Ron Harkey, you win everything. I'm not sure you're eligible. I think you just won on Smashbox. All right, so I have my answer. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. All right, so number one memory is a tall task. It's to try and think about one specific moment, one specific shot, the half or dozen aces I saw this year, the handful I recorded, the events, the championships, the people. Even seeing articles and highlight clips then makes me think about, oh yeah, wasn't that amazing? Mine's gonna be it's mildly generic, and it's already even slightly been referenced. I would say my biggest, most exciting disc golf memory of the 2016 season was finding out that the company I had originally started and then joined with my best friend, Smashbox TV, finding out that we were going to be covering the World Championships. And that was bittersweet. I said it before. I played in 20 Worlds consecutively since the age of 14 or 15. But knowing that if I was going to end my, I'll say competitive, streak of playing, which hasn't been very competitive the last few, to know that I was doing it to then service or help out the tens of thousands that would ultimately log in and watch, it made it worthwhile. It really made me second guess, though. It was a moment. I've given up a lot of play. I played 20, 30, 40 weekends, even more, in some of my prime days of playing. And that was kind of the final straw. All right, I'm not retired from playing disc golf by any means, but I'm definitely not taking it very serious, the play. And so to have the opportunity we did to work with the PDGA, to work with my amazing staff and crew and cameramen and helpers and all of those people, to work with Johnny V and the DD crew, just to have that opportunity to present our freshly crowned world champions to the world was definitely probably my proudest moment of 2016 and memory. One thing that hasn't been done or hadn't been done really to its entirety was showing all of the women's final 9 all the way throughout, starting with them, following all 9 holes, and then ending with their final putt dropping, and having the time to interview the champion, and then a few minutes of downtime before we had to do it all again for what was ultimately the open division. It gave me a sense of pride, but it also, I think, was huge for women's disc golf. It showed our dedication, and we worked hard. We worked hard that week, and we worked exceptionally hard that day. And to be packing up and to realize, albeit the coverage wasn't perfect, it was just it was a really proud moment. So I took just a couple snippets. I didn't have time to go make a highlight reel, although dozens of them could have been made. Jomez and everyone else that touched that event made it so special and what it was. I just put in really the memories, and I'll say I'm happy for who won. I love Val. I love Ricky. It's not so much about, for me, for this moment, it wasn't as much about who won. It was just the fact that it was our company and our work that got us to where we did to present the World Championships live to the world. And to me, that was amazing. So here's it's a couple minutes, and I'll give you as much of the raw audio as I can of what I think was my greatest memory here in 2016. Valerie Jenkins with the congratulations from her family, her dad. And we're going to start with, why does it not let me start from scratch? It did it again. And I would like to see if I can import. because I feel it's that special. And I'm going to hope that
the caddy and the one everybody's been waiting for.
Number 4.
Are you ready to talk to T?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you want the flowers?
Some flowers? He's impressed.
Camera shy.
Val, your husband said it best. You beat him to it. 4-time world champion. How does that sound?
It's kind of crazy. It's surreal. If you watch the final 9, my head was down. I was in tunnel vision. And that's how I was when I won my first 3. So I just had to keep my head down. I just had to keep focused. And yeah, it feels amazing.
Talk about the support you have. You have friends, family, you have your husband. Your dad was on the bag caddying for you.
And mom watching.
And your mom watching. Hello,
Screaming,
Sharon.
Probably crying.
Thank you again so much. And Ricky really lays it up. Come on, Rick. Paul Macbeth is in. The reign of Paul Macbeth, 4 consecutive world titles. He comes up short. Ricky Wysocki, his biggest competitor and biggest rival, gets the best of him. He's already congratulated him. Nico LaCastro with less than 15 feet. Cole Glazer is in. Nico is in. And Ricky Wysocki, ladies and gentlemen, is your world champion here in Emporia, Kansas. Ricky Wysocki is here. Congratulations. Ricky Wysocki remains at 58 under par. He's excited. Gets a little love from Don Smith.
Ricky, here you go. Throw it out to everybody.
I need a marker to sign them.
Yeah.
You guys toss out some wristbands and stuff. You guys want some?
Yeah.
Throwing up some bracelets.
It looks like Ricky may be the first world champion to give out parting gifts to the gallery as part of his victory. I like your style, Ricky.
And Paige, our 3-time women's world champion, is in. She comes up short here this year. However, a solid performance.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2016 PDGA Women's Professional Disc Golf World Champion for the 4th time, Valerie Jenkins.
And Val's going to take the hugs from the rest of her competitors. And then Warren and her brother will step in. Valerie Jenkins with the congratulations from their family, her dad, the caddy, and the one everybody's been waiting for.
Number 4.
Are you ready to talk to T?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you want the flowers?
And there you have it. Again, sorry about the loop through. I'm still not sure why in the world it did that for me. But there you have it. That was the number 1 memory for me as the disc golf guy in the 2016 season. That is Smashbox presenting the live coverage of the 2016 World Championships. Huge congrats, obviously, to all of the winners, the people we did and didn't cover. Hard-fought battles. It was a great experience. and to have everything unfold the way that it did is something that's truly amazing. So here we have it. I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to catch you guys a little off guard before we get into any other conversation. But what I'm going to say is I need to know, put it in the comments on YouTube, what was the margin of victory for Valerie Jenkins as she won her 4th world title? Valerie Jenkins' margin of victory as she won her 4th world title. As you just saw her tapping in a few minutes ago, I don't think there were any scoreboards around to give you a hint or a clue. Maybe there was, but I need to know her margin of victory. Wow, way quick on that. I think Luis Garcia, go by Luis Garcia, nailed it. Man, you guys are quick. Look at you guys. I'm so proud of you. Holy cow. Answer was, in fact, thanks to PDGA.com. The event is number 24339 on the PDGA. The answer was 6. 6 strokes was Valerie's margin of victory. So congrats. Got yourself a cold turkey max weight CFR Color Glow Champion Thunderbird with a mini bottom stamp. Man, that's a mouthful. As if I haven't said enough. I feel like I missed a few comments. So, yes, he was the first to answer. Congratulations. Send me a message on Facebook, and we'll get this. I'll get this shipped out for you hopefully tomorrow. I scrolled up to Devin talking about. I read his putting percentage inside the circle was 97% after 22 rounds. He's a monster. He certainly is. Are you coming to Grand Rapids for the 2017 World Masters? What needs to be done? Hit me up, and we'll talk about it. Okay. Definitely a conversation to be had. Mike Mack says, I watched Rick at the St. Patty's Tourney in Orangeville, and you could tell he was ready to take on the season. He certainly is. And two Nap Fish says, thanks, a big year for all of us. It certainly was. Devin, yes, agreement that he is a freak, I think, regarding to Ricky's putting. What is 6 strokes? I win because I phrased it in the form of a question. That is, you did. That wasn't required, nor that should be a requirement. I do like that, using the Jeopardy rules and syntax. That would be the way to go. And since I know, well, not just because you're on the board, but Robert, I do want to personally say thank you again. Robert McCall's been out on the board. I know he chimes in for a lot of stuff. Robert was a huge addition to our team to help us out with Smashbox. He got thrown right into the mix at the World Championships this year. He'd go out and perform early in the morning, and then he would, more often than not, he came, grabbed a microphone, and jumped right into it. He just, I'll say followed my lead, but then he went above and beyond, and he worked his tail off, and he had a long, grueling weekend or week, and then he joined us in Vermont, and it was just a huge addition having him on the team, and we really appreciate all your efforts, Robert, and we wish to be able to work with you more moving forward. And I don't care what they said about you. I loved having you on the play calls with me, and I think you're great. I think you're better than me, which isn't saying. Is that saying much? Yeah. All right. So let's read a little off the board. I'm not sure I have a lot more for you guys. It's been a great hour or so. I don't know how the pace was. I don't know if you felt like it was right on or way off. If you wanted me to whip through them quicker, I have thought about putting together a much quicker, like 3 or 4 minute version that would just essentially rifle right through my top 5 memories. I don't know if memories is one that can be condensed that well with so much stuff that was there, but maybe I can rifle through them in a much quicker way to release that on a separate video for those who didn't tune in tonight. But I'm interested to get your feedback because I want to know if you guys like this. I do have a few other topics. If I dig around for some footage, I could probably put some other great pieces together that I can at least reference and talk about. I feel like that flows a little bit better to have you guys watch rather than me just babble. I'm not quite equipped here for taking calls and other people just yet, but if I get to that point, I certainly would be interested in doing that. I'm also working, I'll give you guys a little tease, I'm working on a new project that involves some of our top players, that involves some interviews and some other things, and I'd like to get my first one edited and put together as soon as possible, and it's going to be different. It's going to be different than what you guys have seen in the past, and I feel like, I hope that you guys thoroughly enjoy it, but we'll see. That won't be live, that's recorded, but I'm really excited about what we have going on. All right, I'm sorry, I'm going to scroll up through the notes a little bit. A lot of talk about Simon Lizotte. He's going to be making heads turn and memories, I'm sure, throughout the year, if we see him healthy and return in the form that he left in. Tom Davies says he's not a fan in 2016, I think is how I'll paraphrase that. So have a good night, Tom, and hope 2017 is better for you. I personally, I got to agree. A lot of people are talking about the struggles in 2016 and things they did or didn't like, and obviously some recent deaths by celebrities and loved ones. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of loved ones on Facebook, parents and people that have passed recently. I had a great 2016, I'm not going to lie. I don't mean to sound callous or rude either when I say it, but I feel like 2016 was amazing. It was a lot of hard work, but boy, it was amazing. Someone says, I can't read all that. Rev something or other Duck says, since these memories were pretty personal, I'm glad you took the time and explained why they were the tops. Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely felt like, I know they would be very different. When you guys, whether you were on the camera crew, or you're an editor, or you sat in a cubicle, or you sat by a pool and you watched every minute of disc golf this year, your memories of how 2016 went down are obviously going to be very different from how I viewed them and what they all meant to me. So that was why I went about the format that I did. Good video. Pace was fine with the clips and the moments. Robert said he loved hearing the stories. Good job. Thank you. Great. Patrick, big supporter. We appreciate it, Patrick. Great show, he says. And Jonathan says, great show. Ronald says, Terry, really enjoyed all of your content this year. You and Johnny V have been amazing all year. Can't wait to see what 2017 has in store for Smashbox and the Disc Golf channels. Keep up the great work. And thank you. I appreciate, again, all your support. We know you're a regular, Ronald. And I'd be silly to say that, I just have big things in store. Of course, we know Jomez and Central Coast and all the other channels are continuing. We're all trying to up our game to give everyone the best possible content we can. So I personally am looking forward to a lot of good things as well. Scrappy Doo is the distance champ over anybody, over anyone. Okay. Robert says he didn't realize I broke the 20-year Worlds streak to cover this year's Worlds, which makes it more awesome. Thank you. Jonathan, lots of loved ones and doing a funeral tomorrow. Sorry to hear that. Like I said, my mom passed away 7 years ago, just before Christmas on the 19th, and we had a fellow disc golfer passed away on the exact same day, same year. And it just seemed like this year on Facebook, between like the 19th and today, there was just a large amount of friends and family, or indirect friends and family that had left us. So it seems like it's been pretty rough out there. So thoughts to all of you guys, and always sorry to hear of anyone that is no longer with us. Christopher says, I'm extremely excited for 2017 season. My game is feeling better than ever. That makes one of us between you and me. I can't wait to see Will kill it on the tour. I'm assuming you mean Will Schusterich. The newlywed Schusterich has made some exciting posts, and we know he's got big things in the works. So I'm looking for Will to get a little bit more in tune and be a contender every single weekend that he was more frequently in the past. Obviously, we know he's got the skills. It's just a matter of going out and displaying them for 2 or 3 or 4 full rounds out there, because it's incredibly competitive. So I'm definitely excited to see him. Josh says, Terry, you grow the sport more than any other. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. I try to do my share when I can. I feel like videos, I may have undervalued them for a while, but knowing how many people watch them and devour them and consume them, and I was just saying yesterday, I feel so incredibly spoiled that so many people don't see Will or Ricky or Paul or Avery or Paige or Madison and Kat and Sarah Hokum and Val. They don't see them every other weekend. They don't see them play golf live. And I've gotten spoiled and just accustomed to it throughout the years through a lot of traveling and hard work. But I've taken it for granted to see the best players all the time, just about any weekend or every weekend of the year. And so knowing that so many people are consuming and watching and have become fans or non-fans of our players through our videos, I think has it kept me excited about putting them out there for everyone. Ron asks if there's any more on Macbeth's show. Macbeth had teamed up with someone. I forget if it was fully public. I believe it was. He had teamed up with Gabriel Iglesias, a.k.a. Fluffy, to shoot a show. And then I know there was a rain out, and I know Gabriel was promoting it and talking about it a little bit. So it's out there. I don't know if they got fully rained out or partially rained out, if there's a reshoot, if they completed it. I didn't follow up with Paul, actually, to get all of the details. But that was essentially the story. He's got a show on the Fuse network, and with that, they had shot a video an episode that had Paul and Kona along with Gabriel Iglesias, again, a.k.a. Fluffy, as some of you may or may not know him by, the comedian. Excuse me. Josh says, Eagles coming in 2017. There's no doubt about that. Eagles also out on the social media killing it, so everybody can see what's going on. I'm going to try and scroll up and see if there's any other action. If you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to do my best to answer them. It looks like a lot of people tuned off once they got the number one moment, which I'm totally good with. Will has always been amazing outside the circle, for sure. And we crave content, and 2016 was the year of content. I do feel like there was a ton of it by a lot of contributors. Ken Putt says, 2016 renewed my passion for disc golf. I finally got my PDGA number after 20 years. I hope to meet you in 2017. Sounds good, Ken. Awesome. Glad you signed up. I think I've just celebrated 21 or 22 years, 23 years as a PDGA member. I think I signed up when I was like 13 or 14. I got in early. I was lucky. Yes, and then more conversation about the Fluffy stamp. Good night, Terry. Hit me up about 2017 World Masters in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Keep doing what you do. Thank you very much, Josh. And again, shoot me a message on Facebook is probably the best way to do it. So what I'd like to know from you guys is if I were to do something either a little bit more regular, or if you would like to see it segmented as in the way I did it tonight, what kind of format would you like to see? Tuesday nights is going to continue to be a podcast with Johnny V and Smashbox and contributors like Dana and Paul Ulibarri and Zoe Andyke, and we talk about all sorts of things. I don't know if you guys want me to drill down on something more specific or get in depth. We obviously have great podcasts by others out there, like Disc Golf Answer Man and what those guys are doing. So without duplication, let me know if there's things that I can do that you guys might enjoy. I'm open to ideas, whether it's live, such as tonight, or recorded, or little bits and pieces of each. I'd be more... I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Lake Terrell says, is Big Jerem moving sponsors? Should I just say yes? I'm guessing. How about that? I'll say that. He hasn't told me anything, but I'm going to say yes. You heard it here, not so first. Predictions for 2017. I feel like that's a show in itself. More coverage, great events, a lot of I don't have any dark horses in mind, but I think you're going to see a lot of your people. You're going to see a Paul McBeth certainly try to regain the edge on Ricky. You're going to see a little less of Nate Sexton because him and his wife are having a baby later in the year. So those are a few obvious things I think you're going to see. World Tour has doubled from 5 to 10 stops. The National Tour is taking place. We're going to see a new National Tour event in Vegas as it's opening the National Tour this year for the first time in I don't know how many years, as opposed to the Memorial, which is opening the Pro Tour. So we're geared up. You're going to see a lot of good stuff for sure. Devin Hagberg says, maybe more about the older champs. I got to play with Johnny at Vision Quest this summer, the week of the Majestic. What an honor to watch him crush that course. Then he went on to win Masters. Yeah, I was once at the Masters Cup. I was actually given a little bit of a hard time by one of our Hall of Famers. In jest, he said, maybe you should interview somebody older than 35 one of these days. And I'm sure I had some cocky, inappropriate response for him, as he's older than that. And I'm just as enthralled with the history of disc golf and our forefathers and the pioneers of the game. I love all of that stuff. I feel like I'm well rooted in a lot of that. Unfortunately, what dictates the media today, unfortunately or not, is people want to know where Paul McBeth's going to be next week. They want to know what weight his Thunderbird is. They want to know, is Ricky throwing hard or soft daggers? So, and I have a semi-journalistic duty to find my own niche and to carve into certain areas, and I think that's exactly what you're saying. I'm not opposed to that, and I think that's very valid feedback. We will see more Dave Felberg in 2017. I can all but guarantee you that. Ronald says, Happy New Year. I have an early round scheduled in the morning. Good night. Absolutely. Have a good night. Michael Joe, good to see Michael Joe and Philo have good years in 2016. They certainly did. And not only just having the good years, but I think more people getting to know them. And that's where the Pro Tour, for example, has been so instrumental. I mean, they have trading cards with their faces on them. Which, granted, mainly your hardcore disc golfers are the one that are buying those, but just the fact that they exist, allows for that visibility. I was just looking through this particular pack that's got Lance Brown, Holly Finley, Dana Vici, Devin Owens, Paul Ullman, Snappy Cole, James Snappy Cole, Paul McBeth, Nico LaCastro, and Nate Perkins. So awesome to see, for sure. All right, let's get back to any other questions. Square discs will be the big thing. I'm guessing not, but if you can make it happen, you're either genius. Yeah, you'd be genius. If you could make square discs the thing in 2017, I think you'd be a genius. Rollaways, can I caddy for you at Bailey? There's, I think, a side conversation. And Philo's Albatross. Again, didn't make my top memories because it wasn't particular to me. I can tell the story about we heard it happen. I obviously, I've had conversations with them, all that other stuff. Had we filmed it, it clearly would have been a memory that would have probably been more so in mine. But that's a memory they're going to file away forever. Hey yo, got one of those in tonight. But it certainly was great, and it was great for the sport of disc golf. There's no doubt about it. I feel like one of the hard things, and this is the reason why I moved away from the top shots of 2016 and went with top memories, is again, the Ricky Paul battle at Masters Cup. I mean, there you could argue 3 or 4 of those shots are top shots of the year, right there, and that was all just in one round between the two of them against everyone else, I guess we'll say. But what ultimately became, to the two of them. So I'd like to see more tourney coverage. I've learned so much just from watching the pros. I think everyone's trying to work on getting more and more tournament coverage. I like the water tower shots. Was that 2016? I think you're thinking about the ledge stone afterwards, and that was probably 2015 when I filmed Eagle McMahon and someone else throwing up at the water tower. I think you might be thinking of 2015. More Dana commentary in 17. We'd like to. Dana's got a super busy year planned. His very understanding and amazing wife has some additional things that she's taking on, and I think that may pull Dynamite away from disc golf just a little bit with them having a toddler in the house. How about biggest gallery reaction memory? Wow, that's a great question. Again, I got to go to that Masters Cup. Was a huge gallery with some huge eruptions. Not so much at the World Championships. I don't remember that. I mean, Ricky kind of pulled out ahead, and there were great shots that were thrown, but he was comfortable in his lead. I guess I'd have to think about some of the other big gallery. There's a decent gallery. When Katrina had won in overtime in Beaver State, as Alta World had shown that putt that I had recorded. I think of that one. And it's funny, what many would consider the best shot of 2016 in Philo's, there was essentially no gallery reaction because no one really realized it had gone in. And that's just a sheer coincidence or irony, I guess, that one of the biggest shots of the year got zero on-site eruption, so to speak. Ken says, my ace on hole 18 at the Pocono Raceway experience, all those people watching and oohing, that was a great moment. It certainly sounds like it. I don't care who you are. That sounds like a pretty awesome moment, regardless. New disc coming to the disc golf scene. I don't know of anything off the top of my head. I don't get too technical when it comes to that stuff. I'm sure we're going to see new discs from everybody. I was just at the Legacy Factory a week or two ago. I know they're working on some new stuff. I guarantee you Innova is. I guarantee you Discraft is. I'm pretty sure everybody's working on some new molds. I can't say that I have any special information, anything crazy. The one thing I think we'll see is the more people trying to take advantage of the technology in some kind of electronics being in discs or inserted or part of a mold or whatever. I think you're going to see people start taking more advantage of that that technology. Battle of the Cameramen, Terry versus Jomez versus Ian. I have no problem saying they're probably better cameramen than me. Playing golf, I don't know. I did get the round. We did play the media round during the Glass Blown Open as that wrapped up this year, and I feel like on my better days I might have both of them. I also feel like I've been playing longer than both of them, but I feel like on my better day I might be able to take both of them down in a round of golf. But anything's possible. Nate Sexton commentary. He certainly has emerged. There's a story in itself, seeing one of our top pros emerge as one of the... Now, I'm going to go on record, and you're going to probably hear me spew this some other time, but Nate's brought in intentionally with an air of comedy relief, with just like an ounce or a shred of intentional comedy relief. And not everybody has that luxury. And I'm not bagging on him. Obviously, I think he's hilarious. He also has a slight advantage. He can probably say things that a lot of other people couldn't. And he's naturally hilarious. So you team those up. And I'm not taking anything away from Nate. I'm not saying he's soft. I wouldn't dare go there. But he's got an advantage. Now, you put him in a serious... 100% serious situation where he may be going to tens of thousands or thousands of people that are watching it, say, live. I'm not saying he's not hilarious. I wonder if his style would change. Maybe that's a better way to put it. I wonder if it would. He'd still be funny. Would he be able to be the same? That's the question. It's a good question. I don't know. I'll talk to him about it sometime. But yeah, Nate emerging this year was definitely hilarious to see. So big ups to anyone that worked with him. And he worked with us on a few jokes and everything else as well. Lake says, my favorite moment was watching Wysocki drain a huge 100-foot putt in overtime to beat Yulee on Kentucky home course. That was an epic battle with lots of great golf. 2014 SoCal champs. There's a clip on Murder Mike's YouTube, that's for sure. Josh, repeating, that's a Barsby. The Barsby Ken Climo impersonation, which was certainly funny a few years ago now. Favorite moment of all time, definitely. Did you go over the top 5? Sweet Leaf, 714. Unfortunately, you're about an hour late from when I started. Hour and a half late. But I did go over the top 5. Dare I say, I'll break them down for you quickly because I had them all. I really pined over these. Honorable mentions included the Cubs winning the World Series, us covering the NT events and the Pro Tour events, us being in, getting the chance to go to Nantucket and Alaska, and then top 5 memories came in with the battle at the Masters Cup between Ricky and Paul, the Nico stare down at the KC Wide Open, solely capturing and getting Paige Pierce's ace and submitting it to ESPN and getting her reaction the first time she saw it while we were at a bar, kind of all of those things combined. Winning the team tournament in northern Wisconsin and having Nate Doss on the team and hanging out for that week. And then my number one moment was Smashbox getting the opportunity to film and broadcast live the Pro World Championships for the world to see. So there's your quick and dirty breakdown of my top 5 moments. All right, and Barsby is freaking hilarious, as said on the board. Maybe some more tour life videos, hanging out at people's houses, what life is like. I think that's great. I think it's just a matter of the person to film it. And I think you're going to see more of that going back a la the McBeast Diaries. Paul's brother is going to be back on the road with him again this year, and that's going to be his main focus, is getting some more of that tour life atmosphere. Unfortunately, our touring players rarely make enough money to tour, let alone paying a camera person to also then document their life. And Paul directly made the offer a few years ago and said, hey, if you want to hop in with me to travel around for the year and film, we could make it work. And I basically had to say, I'd love to, but that would have had to have been 10 years ago before I had a family and a 5 and an 8-year-old girls back home. So I already am gone from them more often than I'm not. So unfortunately, that didn't work out. But you're exactly right. We'd love to see more of the touring lifestyle. I think of a lot of our top pros and find out what their day-to-day is like. I had a conversation with a Madison Walker today who is has a pretty low-key off-season. And, a lot of our players lead very, very normal lives and definitely try to rejuvenate themselves during our off-season. So, I'd love to see more of it, though. This broadcast beats that of John Kerry of similar length by miles. You available to be Secretary of State? Wow. I don't do enough politics. In fact, I'm very diligent about not talking politics because it's just so divisive. Just 50% of the world is going to hate one idea and 50% is going to love it, or vice versa. And therefore, it's a topic I try not to get too involved with. But thanks. I'm glad I'm better than John Kerry. I don't quite have the money they have, him or his family, but I wish I did. Play music. Who would be in a disc golf band? We all know Greg Barsby. Well, maybe you don't. Greg Barsby plays drums, has played a lot of music. Philo, I know, is talented with a guitar and a few other instruments. Honestly, outside of that, I don't know of I can't think of off the top of my head of a bunch of other top players. I know a lot of them have. Big Germ would have to be your number one beatboxer. I've got some pretty entertaining video of that from the Ledgestone somewhere. I don't know who you'd put together in a band though. That Crazy John Brooks can play like 20 different instruments, I believe, and speak Japanese. So he seems like a no-brainer to have there as well. And he visits the Playboy Mansion from time to time. Where are the Terry Diaries? I've thought about doing more mini vlogs. I started them this exact same time last year, and then I kind of got away from them. It didn't seem like they were well received. I was going to ask a question of the day every time and then be really interactive, and it didn't seem like they were really well received, and maybe it was just too frequent. Maybe I could retry it. Maybe a longer, a few minutes a night doing this is the way to go. I'm not sure, but yeah. Who do I think should be the next director of the PDGA? We've talked about that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. We've talked about a number of people. It may come from somebody outside the sport. It may come from someone who's insanely gifted and talented and perfectly fits the role and is in charge of a club or was the secretary or did something in another state, and I just haven't run into that person. And that's where I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be someone incredibly talented and smart and bright and have all the right qualifications, and they're going to come from, the thriving disc golf scene in New Mexico. I'll just make up a state. But they'll come from New Mexico, but it's a place that I'm not overly familiar with. So everyone knows them as this amazing resource locally, but they're maybe not on the national scene. And that's who I think is going to ultimately fill the position. And that's just nothing more than a random, an educated guess as to where I think the person's going to come from. Tim Skellinger is an amazing musician as well. And he's played here in Milwaukee, where I am not far from. He recognized and named a few music halls in downtown Milwaukee. So I know he wasn't messing with me when he was telling me about it. Random late night. Love it, Lance says. Lance, I know, I was just talking about you, buddy. Because here's your card. Man, I should have pulled up Jordan's card when I had it. There's the official Lance Brown card. I'm going to call you out, Lance, since you're one of our pros watching. Height and weight's not relevant, and that's not just because I'm overweight. I don't know why that's on there for anyone. PDGA number is 58644, turned pro in 2013. Burlington, North Carolina, is birthplace and hometown. Cedar Rock Park, home course. Favorite course is Maple Hill. And who taught you to play? Roommate, my freshman year in college, then my club coaches. And finished 47th in tour points, attended 2 events, once in the top 25. That's Lance Brown, ladies and gentlemen. And frequent Smashy and apparently Disc Golf Guy live podcast viewer. Tennessee State's this year. Paul is playing. Would like to get some great coverage. I don't have that on my personal calendar. That's not to say that won't happen. But yeah, good question. Terry, the answer is you. Executive director job. I said it to someone this last weekend. I would not necessarily say that I'm qualified, but if I were to be qualified, I feel like I need I'd like a few more years to ever consider it. I don't know if that's how I want to say it. I would definitely consider it. I just can't right now. If I want to take video blog coverage and live Smashbox coverage seriously, I can't then go basically give all that up and then turn into doing what the executive director does, which is an insane amount of work. And I could not essentially double dip. It just wouldn't happen unless I wanted to work 100 hours a week. Yeah. Beaver State Fling scheduling mess with anyone else besides Paul or others complaining. There's a lot of people complaining because you have to be at Beaver State on the northwest side of the country, and then you have to be literally clear across the country on a few weekends later. I understand it. I understand it's not ideal. I feel like it's the single worst challenge of the year. And for that, oh well. Like, there's never, ever going to be a perfect schedule. It's just not going to happen. No matter if you could round up every pro, all of them will eventually have one complaint or, oh no, there's a wedding that weekend, or there's this, or there's just no way to make for a perfect schedule. Is it ideal that they go from Beaver State and then 2 weeks later start the Worlds, or 1 week? No, it is absolutely not ideal. I get it. I don't disagree. But 5 years ago, there was 10 conflicts, and then there was 8 conflicts, and there was 5 conflicts. And now, if this is the one biggest conflict, it is what it is. I'm not trying to be unsympathetic. I'm just saying it's never going to be perfect. Here's what I will say. Quit taking it personal when a top pro can't come to your state. And this isn't yelling at anyone here. This is just very generically speaking. I see it a lot on Facebook, and I know I could probably make a post, and I'll probably get blasted myself. But if Paul's not coming, or Will's not coming, or Ricky or Katrina aren't coming to, even if it's a big state like Michigan, don't take it personal. They don't. Unfortunately, I know you're fans. We're all fans, and this is where I said I feel a little bit like I take it for granted. But just because they're not coming to your state doesn't mean they don't like you. Doesn't mean that your courses are bad. It just means it doesn't fit in their schedule. And I'm going to say a step further before I get off the soapbox. They don't owe it to you personally to come there. Yes, you probably do have a great course, and you have a great league, and you have this great hole, and you have this amazing par 4. I get it, because we do too. But don't take it so personal when the top pros don't come through your town or play in your event. They've got tough decisions to make, and all you can do is respect where they're going and what they're doing. All right. I think somebody just answered the Facebook question, or answered the Val question on Facebook. I'm not sure that's. I'm not sure you're getting in that way. Lance asked if I noticed if the 3 Disc Golf Pro Tours are B tiers. I saw that, or saw something of that nature, and I'll admit I'm genuinely confused and a little surprised, and I need further clarifications on that. All right. Iron Hill is being brought up in conversation. Yes, Iron Hill is a great, challenging, great course. I don't know who you're going to see at it or not. That's for sure, but obviously you hear a lot about it being a great course. All right. Sorry, I have to scroll back up. Can you make a living getting involved in disc golf these days? Scott Stokely said you really had to sell yourself and and put yourself out there. Where do you begin? How big will disc golf be in 5 years? Can people make a living? Sure. Is it going to be a good or a glamorous or a wealthy living? Probably not. Hence the term officially coined on Smashbox, thanks to our boy Dana, hashtag disc golf rich. Like, not everybody can be Paul McBeth or Ricky Wysocki, and I'll go out on a limb and say I feel like those are probably the 2 most comfortable people in disc golf. Paul does very well for himself. I think Ricky does pretty well, and Ricky also is a notorious saver, which is great. Not a lot of other people I don't think are comfortable that in terms of playing, and there's no one in terms of video that's comfortable, let me tell you that. It's a battle. It's a struggle. If you're getting into disc golf for money, you're doing it wrong. I feel like there needs to be a meme. Maybe somebody should make me one, or I should go out and find the right original photo to go along with if you're playing disc golf for money, or if you're getting into disc golf for the money, you're definitely doing it wrong. Money can be made lots of different ways, but wrong. Hey, if you're near Milwaukee, have you tried the new course at Johnson's Park in Racine? Luke asks. I have not tried it. Luke, I don't get out to play much. I am in the Milwaukee area. I'm running a tournament in Kenosha this weekend. over at the relatively friendly, birdie-friendly course at in Kenosha, Lincoln Park. Not a lot of people are signed up. I don't know if people are scared or think they're just going to party too hard at night. But Sweet Players Pack, and that's taking place. But I have not played Johnson Park. I've heard about it, but I have not. I've not had the chance to play there. Stokely meant to say horror. Yeah, there's a lot of work you have to do. I mean, you need to. One great idea is if you're not just talking about being one of the best players in the world, you need to find a niche, and that could be video or audio or anything, podcasting or whatever. But then there's dyeing discs, there's being a graphic artist, there's photography, all of those different things. You can be a tournament director, you can sell discs, flip discs, be a collector. There's a lot of different facets to disc golf. I feel like I've had my hands in every single cookie jar almost at one time or another, some more involved than others. I'm more of a hoarder of discs than anything. But yeah, there's ways to do it. None of them are going to probably make you rich, though. Trying to go pro in bass fishing. Same idea applies. If you're doing it for money, you're doing it wrong. Yeah. And I know the competitive fishing is a very interesting thing that I've been just like briefly seen or heard of in terms of details. And it sounds, what I think is crazy to me about competitive fishing, before I go off on too much of a tangent here, is there's, and somebody's going to probably like lose their mind, there is a certain element of luck to fishing. Of course, you have your lures and you have your places and you have your equipment and your GPSs and your fish finders and your time of day. I get all of those things. I absolutely understand all of those factors. There can be strategies that can be applied to be a better fisherman all day long. I'm not arguing that. But if a 14-inch fish comes by your lure versus a 12-inch fish, and that's the difference of winning the tournament or winning that day's contest, to me, there is just that element of luck. That's all. And I don't know if I really have a point to that. Maybe that's what doesn't excite me as much about it. But yeah, I do not want to... someone's saying 10% skill, 90% luck. I wouldn't argue even that. Maybe you would know more than I would. I understand there's so many things that go into it. And I feel the same way about professional card players. Like, you can play everything by the book. You can do everything right. I was just in Vegas. You can play all the cards the right way. And when you're sitting on 18, I won't even break it all down. But when the dealer flips 3 2s in a row and then, beats you with 17 and you're sitting on whatever, like, it's just, it's crazy. There is an element of luck at the end of the day when you're playing cards, for example. And I kind of feel like that is fishing. There's strategies and there's ways to win. And good people, smart people can win at both. But there's still always that chance, that element of luck. I guess somebody could say that about disc golf. You can be super good. You can be great. Wysocki can throw what looks to be a perfect putt, and there could be a wind breeze that knocks it down that he couldn't flat out account for. There is that element. So, anyway. Yes, Chris says, it isn't work if you're doing what you love. I think I may have that quote somewhere. I know I agree with that to some degree. There's still a lot of work. I still feel like on any given week it can be a 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 hour a week doing what I'm doing. It's still work, but I love what I do, so it makes it that much more palatable. That's for sure. It also isn't work if you're not getting paid. There's one way to look at that as well. I'm going to check my messages. I wouldn't normally do this. Is that a Avery Jenkins in the picture behind you? I'm going to double check. I believe, no, that's me. I talked about that at the beginning and top of the show. Got to do this in reverse. That is at in Arizona during the 2013 World Championships at the Snow Bowl, the then temporary course that was installed 10 or 11,000 feet, whatever it was at. And that was one of the long downhill shots. A friend had taken a photo, and then ultimately I got it made into. It was way before the days of where we're at now. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. I want to double check I'm not missing any other major things online. Zach Ladwig, yeah, again, a little bit late on your push of 6 by Val Jenkins. Free disc. All right, I think I'm about ready to wrap this up. It's been fun. It's been crazy. That is not Avery throwing top of the world. No, like I said, if you love what you do and you hit the lottery, you'll never work a day in your life. No, that's not true either. Not to bust up some cliches, but I say this all the time. If I hit the lottery, this could be another podcast for another day, for $10 million tomorrow, I don't know that I would work much less. I'd work more efficiently. I'd work a little bit more comfortably. I'd sleep on less floors and couches. I don't know how much less I would work. And I feel like that's a blessing. It's because I love what I do and I love disc golf. I don't know how much less I would work. And everything I would do would get way better. I can tell you that. Because I'd hire great editors. I'd hire great cameramen. I'd hire better commentators. I would just be doing different work. I would be doing as much. I'd maybe even be doing more work now that there was money to be done with what I'm doing. So I don't think I'd work any less. And my wife and others really disagree with that idea. But I really feel like it's true. If I hit the lottery for 10 million tomorrow, or 20 or 50 or 100, I would enjoy certain things and be much more comfortable. But I don't think I'd work any less. This would be a real studio. I wouldn't be in this little tiny condo either that I own. All right. Chaotic, I believe it is. Visions 98, fun night of interaction. Thank you. It was. Thank you for your input, your questions, your suggestions. I appreciate it. Josh, I know you've been really active on the board tonight. Thank you so much for all the questions and all of our regulars. Jarrett, I know you're out there. We appreciate it. Robert McCall, and it's just everyone. Anyone that chimed in any capacity tonight, I appreciate it. I want feedback. I want to know what you guys want. It's funny to think I can babble for 2 hours with just a little bit of interaction, but let's get on a pointed set of topics or ideas or thoughts or thought train, and maybe I can run with this a little bit more frequently and regularly. I'd love to do so. Maybe get some support for the show. You can support me on my Patreon account. You can support Smashbox on the Patreon account. There's all sorts of different things you could do there. Or if you're you need a course designed, I do that. If you need to buy some discs, or you're going to buy a brand new basket tomorrow from Innova or DD or whatever, purchase it through me. All of those are the little things that I might make a few bucks on, and then ultimately goes to supporting what I'm doing and putting out there. So last few questions. Will there be any sort of Michigan filming happening from your channel? Food for thought. Thanks for everything you do. Again, it comes down to events. What events are there? What players are there? Fair or not, I'm usually with or chasing down now our top players in our biggest events. If somebody were to work with me and want to film at another event and or work with editing and my channel and the Disc Golf Guy, I am 100% open to having that conversation. If you want to get paid in Frisbees, even better. Or if you want to just help the cause for fun, even better. But I'd love more content on the Disc Golf Guy channel. I know Central Coast has a wide network of people that film stuff, and then some people edit, and then they put it together and put it out on their channel. It's much more of a collaborative effort. I'm 100% game for that. I've learned to relinquish a little of the control that I used to have. And if you can film something and you want thousands of people to see it, and sponsors and advertisers and tournament directors to see it, let's film an event and get it edited, and let's get it on my channel, and we'll find ways for eyeballs to get to it. So I'm certainly excited about that. Josh says, keep doing what you're doing, Terry. We want more disc golf, so keep it up. Countdown to the Aussie Open for sure. How and when did you get into disc golf? Devin, that's maybe for another day, but I got in when I was super young. I threw a regular Frisbee with Jeffrey the Giraffe into a red grocery basket when I was at camp in 7th grade. And that was my first official introduction. And then from there I learned what the sport was, and then just became engulfed in it. All right, that one I was pushing for. Awesome night. Thank you, Jarrett. You appreciate the time, Devin. We appreciate you. I'm going to sign off. Thanks again. I got to say it to Johnny V. Helped get things up and running for me a little bit tonight remotely. And I'm excited about where I can take this and maybe bring you guys a little bit more content besides all the other content we're already bringing you. So, for tonight's random Thursday night memory, or 2016 memories here on a late Thursday night, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, for taking it all in. Please share the link with your friends. Let me know what your memories are. Put them in the comments below. And let's look forward to a huge 2017. Have a happy new year. If I don't talk to you guys, be safe. Get some aces. Get the final ace of 2016. Get the first ace of 2017. Send me the video. Make sure you record it. If you use a cell phone, put it in landscape mode, not portrait. You know, all those things. And let's blow this thing up in 2017. So for the Disc Golf Guy, it's been a great night. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night. I will see you soon in 2017.